You are really going to be delighted with today's episode. Scarlet Rivera, Bob Dylan's violinist, returns to the pod for a second interview. We do a deep dive, and the Dylanologists and music lovers are going to really like how we go into the Desire album. We talk about the Rolling Thunder Revue, Joni Mitchell, and we get Scarlett's take on the Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, and how Timothy Chalamet portrayed the Dylan that she knows. But that's not just it. We've got two special announcements in this episode, so stay to the end. I love to hear your comments. I respond to everyone who comments. Please share and subscribe to the channel. It really goes a long way, and I do appreciate it. Come, check it out. Hey, everybody. I am so happy today to welcome back one of my top guests, Scarlet Rivera. For those of you who don't know, Scarlet Rivera is a pioneer. She brought violin to the forefront of lead in contemporary music, discovered by Dylan in New York, and has had a fabulous career, and it's really skyrocketing, and she's known around the world. I want to welcome Scarlet Rivera to the Long Island Sound podcast. Welcome, Scarlet.
Thank you, Steve. Glad to be here.
Always good to have you. You're a busy lady these days, which is very good to hear. And Scarlet, just as a little teaser, Scarlet's going to be coming to Long Island, the New York area in June, and we'll talk about that a bit. But Scarlet, let's just jump right into it. You had mentioned in the past that you wanted to bring the violin in a new way to contemporary music. Can you kind of elaborate on that, on what your thought process was, this new way with the violin?
Well, at the time in the early years, I was playing classical music, and I was trained on classical music all the way up to hearing rock. And and the essence of playing classical music is everybody who wrote it is dead. And I wanted to be a part of the living music and contemporary music that reaches people today. uh, and not just recreating something written hundreds of years ago. And then I was listening to the fact that, there wasn't a heck of a lot of violin except in a, traditional way, like fiddles, you know, traditional country kind of things, or, just background sweetener. They called the violin just a sweetener. So it was never a lead instrument. You might be on a, Frank Sinatra, with a whole bunch of strings. And basically they play what is written in front of them, which is they're not improvising, and they're not contributing anything original. So my thought was like, wow, there's kind of a vacuum here. And I think, the violin is so versatile. I think think it has a place in contemporary music as a lead instrument.
That's really cool. You know what's interesting is, to me, is the opportunity that you had, which you said, it was like getting struck by lightning when Dylan's car pulled up, and it seemed like a perfect thing. And I'm curious about your initial impressions in playing with Dylan in that loft back in the day, and his musical style and how he interprets things. How did that kind of fit for you? Was that like the perfect moment? Like, how did you follow along without chords and knowing songs and kind of working it out with him during that jam?
Well, you know what? It was a sink or swim moment. Fly or crash and burn, and no instruction manual was given. It was like about how to work with him. You either are gonna intuitively know how, or you're gonna not ever work with him. And so I just and he will slam the door in your face in one nanosecond. So my intuition evidently was on very high, and I also was, my personality was kind of like his, which is kind of lone wolf, and you know, I wasn't overly gabby, and like if I had, just gone blah, blah, blah about myself on and on and on, he would have just said, "Here's, the door.
Right,
Bye."
right.
You know? But I was just quietly listened to what he wanted me to do from song to song. I mean, we didn't talk a lot.
That's interesting.
He just went from song to song. He didn't announce the name of the song or the key or
Wow.
anything. I was simply supposed to just know what to play.
Wow.
And, um, he wasn't giving me feedback on whether he liked it or not like it, or he didn't like it.
That's crazy.
And so, like 2 hours of this went by like this. It was kinda high pressure. So, then he slams the piano down. He went from guitar to piano, upright piano. He goes, "Well, I have to go see a friend of mine play. Do you wanna come along?" You know? But no comment on how I did or my playing or if he liked it or didn't like it at all. None. There's nothing you can do about it. You could just go, "Oh, okay, I'd love to come along to the next thing you want me to do." And so I had no
Right.
expectation whatsoever about what his next move was gonna be, or if he was gonna ever announce whether he liked my playing or not.
Right, right. He didn't kick you out, right? So
It was the biggest surprise in the world when, we had gone to the Muddy Waters gig, and, he went up and got, a huge standing ovation for being there and playing sitting in, and then after sitting in on one song, he went to the microphone, and that's when he announced what he was thinking,
right.
not only to the audience, but to me, like, "Ah, I want my violinist to come out." So he told me in a nutshell, "You liked what I played very much, and you're hired."
That's wonderful. Hey, I gotta ask you this. Let's fast forward. I'm really curious about, man, the work you did on the Desire album and, Hurricane, whenever I mention your name, people know Hurricane and the excellent work on that. Can you bring me back to the studio when you're working things out with Dylan, and, did you know you were gonna play on, X number of songs, or how did that all come about in the studio? What was the vibe going on in the studio?
The band we all learned the song all at the same time, all live, all in one shot. We learned each song before we went and recorded it. We ran it through probably twice, and then the actual recording process began. And then I went off to my isolation booth,
Okay.
and I only could relate to, what I'm hearing to fit in with the band through headphones. But I was not an overdub. I was playing live to everybody else. Whatever lines I came up with, I was coming up with them on the spot. But Hurricane in particular, man, we recorded that for hours and hours and hours.
Really? Okay.
And then after it was done, where he thought it was done,
Okay.
several days later, maybe even a week later, he was told by CBS that it was no go. They're gonna get sued if they put it out. So they told him he had to re-record it, eliminate a certain name or word or whatever.
Okay.
So then we went back in and re-recorded it again, and again, it was all night long. I mean, it was like from, afternoon to dawn. I don't know how long, many hours and hours we worked on Hurricane till everyone was exhausted. He was exhausted. And then he
Right.
go, "That's it. That's the one."
Wow. Wow. Did he ever come up to you and say, "Hey, I don't like what you did there. I want you to do it differently," or did he kinda just roll with it?
Never. Only one time he said, "Hey, Scarlett, would you play, under my voice?" Like, as in, an octave under at this point, and that's it.
Okay.
And at one other point,
Wow.
I dropped out on a solo. He was moved to a solo on harmonica, and I stopped playing in the studio, and he
Okay.
stopped the song, and he said, "Why did you drop out?" I said, "Well, you're playing harmonica solo." He said, "No, you play along." Started the song again. I played along. Fortunately, I didn't know that a lot of people who tried to play along with this harmonica didn't work out well. And he hated it and didn't like it.
So he wanted you to layer your violin on top of the harmonica at that point.
Yeah, but not as an overdub playing together live.
Wow, that's really interesting. What I really appreciate, and I've said this before, is the rawness of the approach to pull the music together. There's a certain edge of it's not too shiny, if you know what I mean, and I think that's what makes it so endearing to people. The music, particularly the violin, because it's so close to the human voice and the way you interpret and how you have to weave through um, is really amazing.
It's raw because, again, like if I had the chance to go and like today, or most of the things I do are, overdubs, and I can perfect and like micromanage every bar. And you're like, oh, I played that note slightly off, or I'd like to do that. I will. But then, no, I had no chance to do that.
I don't know if I could put up if anybody who could put up with that type of pressure, and you had mentioned this before, you were the first female band member, of Dylan, which puts another weird dynamic into it, and you obviously you handled it very, very well, you know?
He thought so, I believe. Or you know what? If he didn't think so, I would have been gone in a nanosecond.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So let's do this. Let's now kind of fast forward to so the Desire and tell me if I have the timeline
Yeah,
correct. The Desire album's done, and then Rolling Thunder Revue comes on. You're asked to join that review, which was like a strange caravan of characters and locations, and Martin Scorsese film on the whole thing was very interesting. It seemed to me, if I don't like to sum anything up, it was really kind of getting back to performing in venues that weren't big, right? Although it ended up in Madison Square Garden at the end.
and the Astrodome too.
Oh, and the Astrodome, that's right, right. So you had a cast of characters that rotated through. Obviously, you're through the whole thing. Um, what are some of the memorable things that came across that struck you as you reminisce about the tour the 2 tours that you did with that?
That he was really enjoying himself with us. On days off, for example, he would, line up things for us to do or places to go, and have a little adventure. And, like in Plymouth, they had a little ceremony with Native Americans
Oh.
at the beginning of the tour. I think in Florida, they had gone off and had some ate alligator somewhere. And we had a boat tour, and going on a glass boat through the Everglades. Mhm. Stuff like it was things that people don't know we did together.
Right, as this troupe of people. Now, I assume this is the first, like, major tour that you went on in your career, is that true?
Oh, yes, definitely. Mhm.
One of the things that you had mentioned your interaction with Joni Mitchell, that you were somewhat intimidated by her, but you found her to be really a warm person. It was so great, to see Brandy Carlisle and, getting Joni back out and singing her music and doing all her different art, painting and stuff like that. Is there anything that kinda that pops out of you as far as your interaction with Joni that you'd like to talk about?
I think she was writing Coyote while she was on that tour,
Right. Yes, yes.
and,
Yep. I think I saw a video of her playing it for Dylan and, McGuinn, I think. Um, and I think that's when she was first introducing it, and he was, like, strumming along with her.
yeah, and, I actually was sitting next to her on the bus when we passed that burning farm in the middle of the night. I mean, so it just
Okay.
plucked those lyrics out of that very moment, as we were driving by. We actually she performed it at the home of, this Canadian star, actually. It wasn't Rodney McGuinn.
Okay.
And for the very first time on the Martin Scorsese film. And we were all there at his home on a day off, so, it was great that she was given the, leeway to do pretty much, bring new songs into the picture if she wanted to.
Right, right, and to be there right in the middle of a creative process, which can be either in a group or, privately from what I understand of all the people that I've talked to about it. Hey, I wanna circle back, kinda jump around, I apologize, to Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
You had that surprise, getting called up. I would have peed my pants, but, um, have you had interactions with Muddy Waters after that? I know you really admired him prior to seeing him with Dylan. Anything else jump out, as far as, his work and other interactions with Muddy Waters?
Unfortunately, I never did, hook up with them again. My career went
Mm,
off on a different track, and I just never encountered those guys again, except listening to them, of course.
got you, got you. Now, when everything kinda ended up with the Rolling Thunder Review, I mean, did things just kind of evaporate as far as not continuing on, or was it your decision to go in a different direction? How did your career what was the crossroads of your career after Dylan? I'm really interested in that.
Well, Rolling Thunder too definitely just ended. He did not do a number 3 of Rolling Thunder. And, all good things must end, and he doesn't, you know, rep do much repetition of,
Right, right,
he wasn't gonna make this a 5-year plan with us. If it went on, maybe it wouldn't have been as special, you know?
right, right.
The fact that it was just 1 and 2 makes it, historically more special, but I got a record deal with Warner Brothers immediately after,
Okay,
and I already had my own band at the time, and
okay.
I was playing in a rock fusion band in New York City called Mammoth. Local guys, and we played, we wrote all original music, and I landed, a Warner Brothers with major label record deal under my own name after Rolling Thunder, and I did 2 albums, and, then after that, went on to, begin to do a lot of recording sessions for other people, like, David Hanson from New York Dolls and other people.
Wow. Wow, it really opened up doors for you, and then there was another crossroad where, you're basically known as instrumentalist that you decide to do a singing career along with that. What was the motivation behind that? And I gotta be honest, was that a little scary for you?
Well, I was terrified of singing for years, that's why I didn't sing,
Gotcha.
and also, I thought, well, I was always comparing my voice to the great voices that I was backing up, and I went, "Nah."
Right, right.
So, but ultimately, you gotta get to a point where you go, "I am not that famous person, I am me." And whatever voice I have is whatever voice I have, and I do have perfect pitch, and, I certainly know how to phrase, and I have a story. I have a lot to say. So I think it's time that I sing.
Now, what I found so interesting in talking to you the last time, you recently came back from Italy. You've toured around Europe and you have musicians that you work with around the world. Tell me about your trip to I really wanna I've never been to Italy, but I'm very curious about playing in Italy, playing with your band in Italy, and the dynamic of the audiences that you play in front of, because it's gotta be different than an American audience or any other country, I would assume.
You know what it is? There's something fantastic about audiences in Europe because they seem to have come from a culture of appreciation of art, beauty, architecture, artwork, sculpture, paintings. I mean, historically,
Right.
museum. That's where people around the world fly to there to see their museums and their great art. And it sort of filters down in the whole strata of people everywhere that they simply appreciate on a different level. Musicians, they have a kind of reverence that just it doesn't exist here so much. I mean, it's just they they deeply appreciate musicians stepping forward and it's a wonderful thing.
I was talking to another artist who also had done some work in Italy, and what he said, "You know what? They bring the whole family out. It's like going to a wedding. Everybody goes. They're not segmented out. The town comes out to hear you and appreciate you." So,
That is true. It is not just a demographic of 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds. It's like they can bring the kids, the grandmothers there, and uh, yeah, it's a whole family event.
hey, let's do this, Scarlett. If you don't mind, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, I really want to go a little bit deeper into Dylan Dreams, your solo career. I mean, it's really rocking now. And I'm really curious about what you've got besides coming to New York, because we were talking about that. We'll get into the details of you coming to Long Island in June, but I'm really curious about the path of your career moving forward. Hey, everybody, hang with us. We'll be right back with Scarlet Rivera. Stick with us.
The Long Island Sound is here to help you connect with local artists. Follow us on Instagram for the latest up-to-date podcast episodes and also to connect with your local artists and their upcoming shows.
We are back with Scarlet Rivera. And Scarlet, I'm so fascinated by the fact that you play all around the world. I want you to talk about Dylan Dreams and how you kind of revisit that and the direction of your career moving forward. Tell us about it.
After having done my first solo album, All of Me, I was reflecting on the fact that there's no Dylan song on it. I was reflecting on the fact that, hundreds, if not thousands of people around the world cover Dylan and local bands to famous artists, and probably 98% of them have never met him or worked with him or recorded with him or toured with him.
Right.
So I have a, unique perspective on him and very up close and personal. And if anybody should be singing Dylan, I should be singing Dylan. And it's time for me to step forward and sing Dylan and also out of to honor my mentor and the guy who lifted me up to the world. So I did recorded Dylan Dreams for that reason. And I hope to continue to, record more of songs of his too later on. And when I sing live, I do many other songs that are not on Dylan Dreams.
What I find what's interesting, the dynamic of the mystery of Dylan himself, and to have somebody who knows him firsthand, and's had conversations and play with him, really kind of opens a small window into understanding, a musical genius, if you will. And so now let's talk about Italy for a minute, because I was amazed when I was having an email correspondence with you that you went to see the premiere of A Complete Unknown, in Italy, if I recall. So tell me about your impressions about that movie, and did you get to meet any of the actors in it, and your thoughts and impressions on that?
I didn't get to meet them, but they were there, and the lead actors and the director were there. It was really special to go to a premiere in Rome. That's that's a first for me, because and I was there because I was performing in Rome
Oh, okay.
the night before, and I was being interviewed on Rome TV myself.
Nice.
So I wasn't just there to hang around and go to that premiere.
Right, right.
I was there performing, but I also saw it on Christmas Day in Los Angeles as well. So that was the second time I saw it, and I really was flat, you know, incredibly impressed with how he directed it, the storyline, the authenticity of it and how Timothy Chalamet really nailed. He worked really hard to pull off his characteristics and to learn how to play guitar and sing.
Yeah, in a Dylan style, no less,
In a
right?
Dylan style, yeah. Mannerisms, he got his mannerisms just,
Spot on,
he
huh?
nailed them perfectly.
What I liked about it is, one, I'd like the fact that it was a glimpse in a period of time, I think from like 1961 to 65, and it wasn't a caricature, it wasn't an Elvis, another Elvis movie about Elvis, It really, captured, at least for me, I don't know Dylan, the essence of it, the smirk, the dynamic that you would only know. So, hearing it from you that, gives it just another 4 or 5 stars on top of everything else.
Yeah, I thought it should have won an Oscar, I really did.
So now moving forward, what are your plans for the future? You still gonna, travel and tour internationally? And, hey, can we talk about Elliott Murphy too?
Elliot Murphy's gonna be on my next album. Elliot Murphy will be on the album I'm working on.
Right. When are you planning to release the album?
You know what? I don't have a release date for the album I'm working on, but it's going to be called Full Circle, like coming back full circle to where I began. It's all original material I co-wrote with Jeff Silbar, who won Album of the Year and Song of the Year for Wind Beneath My Wings. He also wrote for Fleetwood Mac, for
Oh, wow.
Don Cougar Mellencamp. He wrote for the band, for Levon Helm. He wrote for Dolly Parton. I mean, he is a top. He's a deal.
He's the deal.
So, but our chemistry between us was great, and we went. I thought I was just going to write 1 or 2 songs with him, and we wrote 6 in 2 weeks. But then, it's taken months, of course, to actually record them and find the right players to play it. And we're at the end. Actually, we're now doing final mixes, and I plan on not only bringing it to Europe, but I really want to find the right representation to get me out singing under my own name in the United States, like I do in Europe.
So I got to ask you this. So I'm going to fill people who don't know about Elliott Murphy. I met Elliott Murphy at the Long Island Music Hall of Fame. Didn't know who he was. He's a Garden City guy, lives in France. Probably one of the most prolific artists that I've ever met. He's been doing like journaling his dreams, and he just came out with an album of his own. He does over 200 shows, I think, a year. How did you connect with Elliott Murphy?
It was through a roundabout way through Tony Garnier, who's Bob Dylan's longest uh, running band member and bass player, currently still with Bob. But he can't do Bob Dylan's stuff because he's already signed. If he's still working with Bob Dylan, he can't go out and do a Bob Dylan show with other people other than Bob Dylan. So when he gets offers like that, he may recommend me. And in one case, he did. Rebecca and I ended up doing a Bob Dylan tribute show in Zurich, Switzerland. That's like, I guess, 3 years ago.
Okay.
And Elliott Murphy was the other band that was going to be featured. So they flew me over just by myself, but I was integrated into Elliott Murphy backing me doing the Dylan songs, and then I backed Elliott Murphy doing his songs. And since then, I've done other shows in Europe with Elliott, and now since I'm doing my album, I picked one song. I asked him to write a song for me or to cover one of his songs, and he came back and wrote an original for me. So that's on the album.
Mhm.
And then I pulled him in to do a duet with me, and he sang it in Paris and sent me the tracks here.
It's amazing that electronically how he can connect like that. I remember when I did the interview with him. First when I met him, and then I Googled him, I'm like, holy mackerel, this guy's the real deal. And then he's like, yeah, I'm in France. I'm like, oh, I had to run home during my lunch break because of the time change. And he's a sweetheart of a guy, very generous man.
Yeah.
Did a duet with Springsteen. He got inducted by Billy Joel. Just a regular guy. I'm so happy for you. I can't wait till that. You got to make me a promise though. You got to tell me when that release date comes out because I'd love to have you back and I'd like to explore that album with you and tell the world about it.
What I can tell you right now is the first single was released last week, and it's on.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Blessed, and it's on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Amazon.
All right.
The works.
Wonderful. So what we'll do is we'll put those links in the description below. And I just want to tell the audience, hey, you know what? In the comments section, you've been so generous, telling me about your connections to Scarlett. I got a comment from a guy who was in one of your high school classes.
Oh boy.
And he commented on the last interview we did. So I want to encourage people, to comment below and look for the links to Scarlett's music. And the big thing, at least for me, is in June. Is it June 19th? My fault.
22nd. Well, June 19th, I will be in Long Island.
Yeah, at my father's place at the Roslyn Hotel. Really looking forward to bring my Long Island friends and fans of the Long Island Sound podcast. I'm telling you, I know some of the other players there, and it's going to be a show of shows, something to put on your bucket list. So we'll have the links for tickets to my father's place for your show there. So I'm excited. I'm an excited guy.
Really, I'm excited about it too. I want it to be sold out, and I'm going to be joining and including my friend Diane Lotney, who's going to be sharing the show with me. Great singer.
Good. Well, Scarlett, I really appreciate you coming back on the show. It's really my pleasure to have this discussion with you. So happy, how you pioneered the violin and what you've brought to the world with your art. We're all truly blessed by it.
Like my single, Blessed.
Hey, how do you like that for a tie-in?
Yeah. High five, Steve.
All right.
High five.
Take care, dear. We'll see you soon.
All right. See you in June.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.